Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming. And I want to say special thanks to Amber Good, who helped put this together. And this is going to be very informal, so don't get your expectations too high. But we've tried to bring at each of the site. We have so many things to talk about. So we want to give a little bit of background, make sure you know the backstory to how some of these things came to be. And those have been involved putting it together. Then we want to have someone share kind of a testimony of how this space may or what they hope for it to do spiritually for themselves and for others. And then Amber's put together a little liturgy for each of us to share in, participate in as we go. So I'm going to let Loi start out and talk a little bit about how this whole concept started.
This concept started with just a casual conversation between Jonah and I. I said, you know, we have access to some leftover plants from the Master Garden Sale. Would you like some natives for out here to attract our pollinators? He said, absolutely. So we got 60 plus plants and we planted them in a straight line along here because there was nothing anywhere. Well, over the next 12 months, the scouts dug out the path and we started getting a few things here and there. And about a year later, Salisbury Nursery went out of business and got 20 some shrubs here and there at a real good bargain price. And little by little, this is just taking shape. But there's some regular annuals and perennials in here, but it's leaning heavily toward native plants for our pollinators. And we do see a lot of them out here. The sage is blooming right now, the chives, the bees are over there like there's a party going on. So, you know, it's working. The baptisia over there, it just started blooming yesterday for our event today. So it's very manageable. Other than that, it's kind of grown, and Pastor Jack donated the peace pole a little over a year ago. We now have another little pole about peace in the garden. And then when our dear friend and volunteer out here at Teter, Dawn Harlow, passed away, we took the funds from her memorials and bought the bench, the angel, the red maple tree, a variety of plants around here. So, you know, it's not set in stone. This is a very evolving thing, but any of us who work out here, it's truly a peace garden. It's a great place to just enjoy. And anybody that ever wants to help.
I'm Sarah Hamashuk, and I own that big chicken yard back there. So 4 years ago, I heard that Pastor Aaron and Jonah wanted to add bantam chicks for fun, and I convinced them to let a Girl Scout introduce chickens to Teter, and they donate eggs to Dinners on Us at the church's community dinner. And thanks to David Newsom, who donates the Purina chicken food, the chicken and egg wash volunteers, and acre holders, we have 3 donation locations and have donated over 15,000 eggs. I feel that the chickens are significant not only for the eggs for food, but kids love to see them, hold them, and touch their eggs. Kids see the wonder of God's creation all around in this area.
So I'm going to speak a little bit about the kiosk, and you say, what kiosk? Because it's not in this vicinity. But as you park right up in front of the lodge and cabins, there is a new tri-side kiosk. It's got 3 sides of signs. One is the bulletin board, which will change out every month or so. It's due for another changing. And the other 2 sides provide information about the property, where you're at, and where it came from. Now, how did this sign come to be? Well, a few years ago, I think it was 2019, an employee who works with the Indiana Wildlife Fund, Indiana Wildlife Fund, came to Jonah and said, hey, we really like what you're doing here. We saw your trail in the conservation area, and we are applying for a grant, and we would like to host that on your property. Would that be possible? And Jonah contacted me because he knew that I was interested in nature and trails, and that's where my background was. So I came on out and showed them around, and one thing led to another. They wrote a grant. They were approved for the grant, And so they were able to help us learn about invasive species and what we plant, invasive plant species, and helped us learn what we needed to do to take steps to get rid of these harmful plants. They're harmful to our wildlife and to our soils, and creating a more native environment with all of these plants that are meant to be in this area help us to highlight the importance of the habitat, especially in that area. And so the kiosk was a part of that grant. And so we were able to bring a very important part to those folks who come to visit us either weekly, daily, or maybe once in a lifetime. They now have a point of contact to know where this place came from and what its mission is and what we're doing at the moment here. Thank you all for being here.
Hi, I'm Dawn Harlow, the daughter of Kathy Harlow. So some of you that are members of the church may have seen my grief share testimony. And so to kind of backtrack, when we lost my grandmother, Helen Tackett, which was Kathy's mother, in, this is harder than I thought, in January of 2013, I was extremely angry and constantly asking why God this was happening to me. I had suffered 3 other previous losses with grandparents. So 9 months after she had passed away, we had a gazebo built in her honor with butterfly bushes surrounding it there on the property at the church that I grew up in. And she always told us that she would, how would we know that she'd be around us? She said she'd come back as a butterfly, so we had planted butterfly bushes around it. So when my mom died, I knew she was going to be cremated, and I didn't know where that place I could go to be and how she would come back, how I would know that she was there, to be able to connect with her. And that's when I remembered Loi had written her a card that said we were going to donate or plant a rose in the peace garden in her honor. As you can see, it's much more than just a rose that was planted. But it's always, Teter has always been a special place for me, for my kids. Mom volunteered many hours here. She would bring the kids with her. She'd force them to work for 30 minutes and then they could go play. So it still holds a really special place to me. And I have a place now to come that my kids can come and feel the presence. And at the end of it all, I've been able to come out on the other side, and instead of asking why it was all happening to me, I realized that this was all happening for me so that I could share in the journey, in the story, and be part of Teter. So thank you.
And boy, would Kathy be proud.